Hi there, Librans. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Astrogirl, and we're looking at June 6th through June 12th. So we're right in the middle of the Gemini cycle, which is good for you. That, of course, is your fellow air sign and your ninth house of higher education, overseas travel, and philosophy and spirituality, and just digging a bit deeper into things. I think that that's something that we don't do enough of. This is a gloss over society in many ways. We get our news from whatever's on our phone when we wake up in the morning or whatever we see on Facebook. But, I remember a time my grandparents would sit and watch like four different news outlets, the ABC News and all that sort of thing, just to see what was happening in the world. And so they had a very clear picture, and the next morning they would read the newspaper. So they were very up to what the television stations and the newspaper people wanted you to hear. But I don't think much has changed as far as, it's not simply enough to just read a couple of blogs or read a couple of headlines and think you know everything, because there's usually two sides to every story. And then, of course, the third side is pretty much the truth. So think about that this weekend when Mercury does move into Gemini, and talking and maybe even some political discussion and religious discussion, things that one doesn't normally talk about or we've been told not to, come up, and you find that, as well as playing mediator as usual with your friends and family, this is also a time when there could be some discussions that need to be had. Because Mercury moving into Gemini moves into home field advantage. And because Gemini loves to talk, the planetary combination of Venus, your ruler, the Sun, and Mercury in Gemini makes the next 3 weeks one of the easiest times of 2016 to get out there and negotiate everything. So keep that in mind and don't undervalue, the art of negotiation and the art of um, saying, this is what I want, and speaking it and being honest and looking people in the eye. There's something to be said about social media. It's taken away the art, not only of writing, like I find that teenagers and that can't write very well because they're so used to using the computer that their writing penmanship is almost unreadable. And speaking, talking, sitting down and actually talking without the use of the phone or without distraction is another thing that's fading into the distance, that one day we'll watch in movies and say, what are they doing? They're talking to each other. Because it gets to the point here where people sit across from the room and text each other. So just remember all of that going into the weekend and next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week.